I'm a dude, he's a dude, she's a dude, we're all dudes, hey! Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd watch a Netflix movie that is on the top 10 Netflix. Um, I guess it's a list, but it's also a category, I'm going to say. And then we talk about it, and you listen to it, and hopefully everyone lives happily ever after. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And yes, welcome to another exciting edition of this podcast. Today, as some of you will recognize from Todd's singing, we're going to be reviewing the movie Good Burger. And that song
Yes.
is featured several times throughout the movie. So,
Very true.
um, so
And I'm
this
still in disbelief that this made it on the list. But here we are.
here we are. I don't really know why. We don't know why, but it was number two on the day that we picked it out.
What was the number one show when you picked it out?
I didn't
Cause
look because I only look at the
okay.
specific movies to give us 10 to choose from. So,
Wait, what was number one then?
number one was We Can Be Heroes,
Oh wow. Okay.
which we've already reviewed.
Yes. And we got a huge bump in our listeners last week from it.
We did. We got 56 downloads just of that
Yeah.
podcast episode.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, Good Burger has quite a number of notable folks in it. Um, the stars are Kel Mitchell and Kenan Thompson. Um, Kenan Thompson is on Saturday Night Live and I believe is the longest tenured cast person on Saturday Night Live. He's
You'd
been
be
on
correct in that, yeah.
since 2003 is what I was
Yeah.
reading about. So got those guys. They're the principals, but you've also got some.
Wait, no, I think you mean 2013.
Uh,
He has not been on Saturday Night Live since I graduated high school.
okay. Well, maybe I had that wrong. Um. Well, anyway, there's a bunch of other sort of minorly famous folks in this. Sinbad, the old the old
Yep.
comedian guy, is in this. He plays a teacher. Abe Vigoda is in this.
Poor. All I could say through the movie was, I was like, man, poor Abe Vigoda. Like,
Yeah.
poor Abe in this movie.
Yeah, he's dead now. Rest in peace, Abe Vigoda.
Yeah.
And then you had your Shaquille O'Neal plays a minor role in this film
Yes. As
uh,
himself.
as himself, and Carmen Electra is in this, although she's not credited.
Holy crap, Matt! You were right. 2003.
Boom.
Wow.
See, I saw something.
That is crazy to me. I mean, I knew he was the longest tenured, but I just thought, well, yeah, because everyone only lasts like 6 years or whatever, and then they move on to different stuff. So I was like, you could be, but holy, I guess it's just because I don't watch Saturday Night Live a whole lot. So, wow, okay, mind blown. Sorry, go
Yeah.
back to what
So
you were
he's
saying.
he's up at 17 years. Um, and the other person that I'm going to mention is George Clinton, who is the frontman for Parliament Funkadelic. And I identified him immediately because I've seen Parliament Funkadelic in concert at UMBC's Quad Mania.
Quad Mania.
Yeah, they were one of the headliners one year, and so I got to see old George Clinton up there shaking his
Nice.
moneymaker with his colored dreads and all the funky folks.
Nice.
Anyway, who did I miss, if anyone?
There's only a couple other people. Really, there's only one other person who I notably know, and that's because he was in the Angel TV series as Gunn was his name, but he was the black henchman to the main bad guy. I can't remember his name, but he's been in some movies too, but that's notably where I know him from. And then I will point out to you the other cast members of the sketch show All That, which is where this movie originates from.
Yes.
That I can remember. I didn't look this up because I just wanted to be off of memory. So I'll probably miss some, but I feel pretty confident in what I'm about to say. So the guy who owns and runs Good Burger is the same guy in the show who owns and runs Good Burger. He's not like he's an adult cast member, I guess, but he wasn't one of like the kids of the sketch show. I don't know his name, but he's there.
Dan Schneider.
Okay.
He's also one of the writers of this movie.
That makes sense. The other employee of Good Burger, who's the white kid, the skinny white kid with black hair, who I'm not sure what job he does. He was a cast member of All That.
He does drive-through.
Yes, the drive-through.
Fizz is his character's name.
And then so I can only point out her short time in the movie. She was the woman who came in and gave the ridiculously long order that kind of fried Ed's brain. She was a cast member of All That. Gotcha. And I believe has also come back for their All That revival, which I have not watched. But I think I saw her in that. So I may have missed some All That cast members, but those were the ones that I definitely remember being from the show.
Great. Well, so this movie, Good Burger, was started as a sketch on this show, a Nickelodeon show, right?
Correct.
All That, which is a sketch comedy show. And that little sketch blew up into this movie and had all these folks in it. So, what is Good Burger about? Well, you've got the character Ed, who he's the main character of the movie. Well, Ed and Dexter are the two main characters, I'll say. Ed is like a very simple man who works at Good Burger. He's their main cashier person and takes all the orders. But he is kind of pretty over the top, not a smart guy at all. But he's lovable. So it all starts with you kind of get introduced to him, and then you get introduced to this guy Dexter, who is in high school, and he's getting out of school for the summer, and he's driving his mother's car without a license and ends up crashing it, and so he needs money to fix the car and not get in trouble. So he decides to take a summer job, and it ends up that he ends up working at Good Burger and develops a friendship with Ed. And then the other part of the plot of this is there's like this huge burger franchise called what's it called?
Mondo Burger
across the street. And so the people who run that are evil and are doing bad things and are trying to get Good Burger shut down. And then at a certain point, Ed develops this special sauce that makes Good Burger dominant. And so then the people from Mondo Burger want to get the recipe for the sauce, or they want to steal the sauce, or they want the sauce so that they can make Mondo Burger as popular as Good Burger. So, so that's kind of the setup for things.
Shenanigans ensue.
Right.
Yeah. There's two notable people that we missed, I think.
Okay.
Maybe one's not as notable. But there's the first customer of the movie is a guy called his name's Robert Wohl, WHL, um, who was the main reporter guy from the 1989 Batman movie, the Tim Burton one. He's been in a ton of other stuff too. I always get him confused with Albert Brooks because they look very similar. But one is Albert Brooks and this guy's not that. So
Right.
anyway, the main person who I identified in the movie and then forgot about till just now is a good old Linda Cardellini is in this movie. She has been in a whole bunch of stuff. Freaks and Geeks. She's Hawkeye's wife in the Marvel Universe. She was in the Green Book as that guy, the main character's wife. She was the crazy Heather was her name in the show or the movie. She was the crazy woman in the insane asylum that Kenan and Kel get put in.
Yes.
Slight spoiler alert, but
Right. Well, I'm going to be touching on that particular scene quite a bit in
okay.
my description. So,
All right, good.
I don't consider it a spoiler that they were put into a mental institution.
Gotcha.
So, all right. So, give it to me straight. What did you think, Todd?
Uh, this movie is a perfect time capsule of comedy in the mid '90s, like specifically kids comedy. Like if you grow up watching shows like All That and stuff like that, it's just all the same humor and a lot of stuff that's pretty played out at this point and not funny. But then there's also a couple little. I did not think I was going to laugh at all watching this movie, and I have to admit that it did make me laugh a little bit at times. The one that almost made me spit out my drink is in the beginning of the movie where Ed has a bad dream, and then he wakes up to realize that he's late for Good Burger, and he picks up his alarm clock to see the time, and he's like, "Oh, a clock!" He gets out of bed, and for some reason I was like taking a sip of water, and it got me. It definitely got me. So, that being said, I don't think this is a good movie. Maybe there's some parts in it that are kind of, you can it hasn't aged well. It's a perfect time capsule of the mid '90s, and if you watch it outside of the mid '90s, you're like, oh, oof, this is how things were back then. Especially for Nickelodeon, where like they would always find a star or a tag team star duo, and then they would just do everything with those two people. And then once the stars started to dim, they just dropped them like a bad habit. And I think Kenan and Kel are the perfect example of that. Like it was like you couldn't, they had their own show, they had the All That, and then once like Nickelodeon couldn't get any more money from them, they just dropped them. And then only Kenan. I don't know what Kel does. I know he auditioned for SNL, but they were like, we can't have Kenan and Kel on SNL. It's just be too weird. So, yeah, I think this movie suffers from any other movie where you rely on a younger cast and you have the experienced actors playing these goofy parts. It's just, I don't know. I guess the truest test is that I'm going to in a couple years, I'm going to make my daughter watch this movie and see how she likes it and see if kids can still relate to this movie or not, or if it's just too out of touch, period. So, I guess some of the acting's okay and fine. Some of it's typical over the top, Nickelodeon madness that, I don't know, maybe there's people out there who really clamor for that. If that's the case for you, then this is the movie right up your alley. But I like to think my tastes in movies have sophisticated since I was a younger boy. So, and I honestly don't think I liked this movie even when it came out. Like I was like, Good Burger, really? And I saw it and I was like, So, I don't know. I don't want to totally crap on this movie that's obviously for a younger population and is like a time capsule of the mid '90s, but I don't know. I don't think you need to go back and watch this movie. If you want to attempt your kids to watch this movie to see if like it still relates to kids nowadays, then sure. But I mean, not even kids, like almost I would say teenagers. Uh, and there's just so much this movie doesn't make sense. Like from a standpoint like that, a movie that has plenty of underage driving with no licenses and different things going on like that. It just doesn't. It's a mess. It doesn't make sense. But it doesn't need to be totally tight. It's for kids. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just rambling on at this point. So I'm gonna pass it over to you, Matt. I think I know what you're gonna talk about for the asylum scene. So I'm not gonna touch on it because I feel like you're probably going to do a better job of it than me. But so I turn it over.
Okay, it's turned over. So this is not a sophisticated movie. Use that word. The sophistication level, and I feel like the sort of the writing level is at like a animated Scooby-Doo episode.
Yes.
Like that's sort of like we've got this caper going on and we have to stop the bad guys and the good guys have to figure out how to do it and unmask the villain at the end. So yeah, it's for younger people than us for sure. I like what you said about it being a time capsule of 90s sort of comedy stylings. And yes, a lot of that stuff is played out now. The one, I will give it some credit. There is one part that I did find enjoyable is when Ed and Dexter meet for the first time inside Good Burger. And their conversation is just hilarious to me. They're just going back and forth with Dexter saying like things a normal person would say and Ed responding with just absolute sort of gibberish nonsense stuff that is off the wall. And that made me chuckle a little bit because it was just so absurd. And I like absurd humor. That's good. But the rest of the humor in almost the whole movie was sort of more slapstick, over the top acting type of humor that I'm not really in for that too much.
Yeah.
And the one scene that I was talking about, or that I alluded to, and you did too, is this scene in a mental institution. So at a certain point, Ed and Dexter get kidnapped. Somehow the people at Mondo Burger have a connection with a mental institution.
Some way to stash people who get in their way, I guess.
Right. And so they just make a call and send Ed and Dexter over to the mental institution with no hope of getting out. And that's sort of fine. Like, okay.
Yeah. And their families never come looking for them or anything.
Yeah. But
man.
Then we have like using mental illness as humor then takes quite a large portion of the stage at that time while they're there. Including an impromptu dance number, the only one in the movie, by the way, which has people who are supposed to be mentally ill doing a choreographed dance number, but at the same time trying to maintain their look of mental illness. And it's really uncomfortable to watch. You would not see that today. Out of all the parts of this movie that don't age well, I would say that is probably number one on my list anyway of things that don't age well. Is that scene right there?
Yeah, those things don't play nowadays, really.
Yeah. So, I didn't think this movie was very good. even if I put myself as like, a young tween or a young teenage person, um,
Sure.
I I still don't I still don't buy that people. I know people love this movie and people reflect on it fondly, but I'm not one of those people for sure.
No, because I think it's been on Netflix for a little bit. Like we were talking about why I was so surprised this movie popped up because I thought it's been on Netflix for a while, and I've seen people post on Facebook Good Burger or whatever, and I know what I'm watching tonight, my response to every one of those people is like, why? Like, it wasn't good when it came out, like, and it definitely doesn't play nowadays. But I mean, you're right. People like just hold so fondly to movies like this, and I mean, I get it if you got a soft spot in your heart for a movie that maybe doesn't play so well nowadays, but like it, I don't know, was really good. But this one, I just don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, the only reason for people to watch this and love it today is some form of nostalgia that's connected to that time in your life where you watched this movie and something good happened at the same time that was like you were at a great party or you were sleeping over your friend's house and you watched Good Burger and you had a great time that night, and you know so Good Burger brings back the good feelings. But
Yeah.
it's not a good movie, and uh yeah, that's who should watch it. No one really should watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
who would enjoy it. Here's who should watch it. You should watch it if you were that guy or that girl who was doing something fun and you watched it with your friends and it reminds you of that time. That's really the
Yeah,
only
I guess
people
so.
I'd
Yeah,
say.
only if you want to feel nostalgia.
Right. So that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah. Well, oh, I can't believe we forgot to mention this person's in the movie. A pretty big role for a time is Carmen Electra is in the movie.
I did mention her.
Oh, did you? Sorry.
Yes.
Then I am
You
spaced out there. I didn't
you
hear that.
were you were I think looking up the tenure of Kenan
Oh,
Thompson
I
of Saturday
probably
Night Live.
was.
Uh,
Whoops.
yeah,
Sorry for zoning that on you like that.
that's all right. Yeah,
Uh,
interestingly, she was not credited in the movie, but
no,
she
yeah.
is in there.
So crazy. All right. Well, I don't want to go with the obvious choice for this. I don't know why. I just don't want to give Burger the satisfaction of that. So
All right.
I'm gonna. All right. How many shake jacuzzis do you give this movie out of 0 to 5? How many shake jacuzzis?
Yes, the shake jacuzzi. There is one scene where Ed is actually inside of the shake machine because he's trying to fix it, and
Yes.
then he realizes it isn't turned on, and he turns it on, and then he's delighted by the gentle rhythms of the shake machine acting like
Yes.
a jacuzzi.
Yeah, and knowing how that store was run, I'm sure all those shakes were served to to customers.
Yes, indeed. So, on a 0 to 5 scale, I'm going to give this uh, a point 0.9
Mm.
out of 5. So, a pretty low rating.
Pretty low for a mat rating.
Yeah. But I don't know. There was so many times where I had to like fight not to zone out and pick up my phone
Sure,
during this movie.
absolutely.
So, that's where I'm going with it. Point 0.9.
Point nine. Yeah, I didn't think this was a good movie at the time, and I don't think it's a good movie now. But I'm having trouble with my nostalgia feelings about this movie. Because I was at that prime age when all this came out, so I rode the wave of the Kenan and Kel, all that, this movie, their show, like, um, But just because I'm feeling the nostalgia doesn't mean that's good. So I'm gonna give it a 1.3. I'm gonna say 1.3 just off of the effort that Kenan and Kel put into the movie. They tried their hardest.
Fair enough.
So I'll give them a 1.3.
Fair enough.
So
Well, yeah, so that's going to put the average rating for this movie, Good Burger, at 1.1. I think is where that lands. 1.1.
yeah.
Jacuzzi, shake jacuzzis out of 5. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's a pretty low rating, and we don't really recommend anyone watch it. So yeah.
I have this feeling that of all the movies that maybe we've given low ratings to, this is the one that might give us some backlash from people. Like,
well, I had lunch with our mutual friend Ed today, and I told him we were reviewing this movie. He was like, "That's a great movie." So
oh yeah,
we may get some backlash for sure.
at least Ed admits that his movie liking of movies is a weird one. Like,
yes, that's true.
He at least knows that about himself.
Yes. Well, before we wrap it up, we're gonna continue on our quest to watch movies that are popular on Netflix here in America.
Yeah.
And we are going to be reviewing a movie called Outside the Wire, Todd.
I've never heard of it.
Never
is it
heard
new
of it.
or
It's new. It's 2021.
Okay.
And it looks like it's
give us a little taste. Who's in it?
I don't remember who's in it. I didn't look real closely, but it's like a military sniper, maybe, looks like, type adventure movie. So, an action
adventures in sniping.
Adventures in some kind of warfare.
Okay.
So, let's see. Oh, here's
Outside
the
the
synopsis. One's a
Okay.
hotshot drone pilot, the other's a secret new class of soldier. And where they're headed, none of the old rules apply.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Sounds
pretty good,
awesome, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty good little short synopsis.
Yeah. That's copyright Netflix, by the way.
No.
So that'll wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. And we hope that you continue to listen to our podcast because we love our listeners. You can interact with us on our Facebook page if you'd like. We always post something when we put a new episode out. So, yeah.
And we'll answer any question that's posted
Correct.
on the Facebook page.
We will.
Both Matt and I will give our separate answers because we can't. Right now, technology doesn't allow us to merge into one person to answer a question. So,
well,
maybe
on
in the future.
Facebook, we can answer as Matt and Todd Go to the Movies.
That's true.
So that's almost like merging into one person.
Yeah, we're still going to give two separate answers, though.
Correct, we are. All right.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da
da da da.